Welcome to the Statler Financial Radio Show with Philip Statler. Have a question for the show or need assistance with your retirement plan? Give Philip a call today. 863-285-3815. 863-285-3815.
Believe it or not, the need to tackle those spring cleaning projects around the house might actually be part of your DNA. Researchers say as the days start to get longer, our bodies create less melatonin, so that means we have more energy and the desire to shake off everything related to the previous season. So how does that relate to planning for retirement? Well, you're about to find out. We are glad you're here with us today on the Statler Financial Radio Show with Philip Statler. He is president and CEO of Statler Financial Services in Sebring. And I hope you're in a spring cleaning kind of mood today on the show, Philip.
Well, I find that kind of interesting because I still haven't caught up from daylight savings time change yet. You know, I mean, they forgot to factor that little thing in there rough. For us. And, you know, the older we get, the harder it is to make those changes.
Oh, yeah. There is just something about that whole setting the clocks, having them spring forward. That is a rough time of year for a lot of us. So, yeah, you're onto something there for sure. But so clearing out the cobwebs, getting rid of all the junk around the house, this might be an annual ritual for a lot of us. But let's talk a little bit about spring cleaning for our finances. What might that look like?
Well, you know, I think that when you think about spring cleaning, you're going through and you're cleaning stuff up. And I think our finances are the same thing. You know, we need to clean some things out and see where we are and make sure that we're on track for where we want to be if we're not retired yet. And if we're retired, I think we have to look back and say, okay, am I where I projected I was going to be from a financial standpoint? And so that my plan is moving forward in the right direction.
Yeah, absolutely. And let's talk a little bit about, you know, when we're thinking about doing this kind of annual check-in on our finances, why is it important that we are doing that kind of checkup or checking in, cleaning things out as it relates to our finances on an annual basis?
Well, you know, just like at the beginning of the year, right? We set goals and we look at things and we have some retrospect of how the last year went. And I think that now in spring, we've got 3 or 4 months under our belt of this year. And so it's time to pause and make sure that we're on track for where we need to be. And spring's a good time to do that because, well, we're getting ready for summer and having fun. And so we want to get this done before that phase starts to kick in.
Yeah. And it just, it's one of those things for me where I sometimes struggle with the motivation to get started. But man, once you go through and you get things freshened up and you get things cleaned out and reorganized and sorted out, it feels really good. It's just a matter of that motivation to get yourself going again. That's what I experience anyway. So, you know, let's talk about some of the ways we can spring clean our retirement finances. What could go on that list as we think about this?
Well, like I just said, one of the things I think is very important is that we check in on our goals, our financial goals. You know, where are we in terms of our financial goals? Are we on track? Do we need to tweak them? Do we need to create some new ones, right? Do we have some bucket lists that we've come up with now that maybe we need to create a financial bucket to fund the bucket list to something we want to accomplish over the next year or so? I think another one, and this is hard for some people to deal with, and I get it, switching to online statements and bill pay to help, get rid of the clutter. I mean, I don't know about other folks, but my office is, I hate to even think about spring cleaning because, just paper, it has a life of its own and it just seems to accumulate, right?
Yep.
If you go to online statements and bill pay, hey, you don't have to worry about it. It's taken care of. You don't get more paper in the mail. I know there's some, there's some downsides of that perspective too. You miss it in your email, but it does help with the clutter for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now I think this next one's a big one. And then I'm working on this actually now as we speak. Let's review our subscriptions and our bills. Those things.
Yep.
they add up really quick. And a lot of times we're not using all the subscriptions that we're subscribed to. And so it's a good time to kind of peruse all your bank statements and your credit card statements to see what monthly charges are getting hit every month for your subscriptions, and see if there's anything you can get rid of. I mean, I've already found 2 that I've crossed off the list because I just don't use them anymore. And so that's just a good idea to take the time to do that and get rid of stuff just like you get rid of stuff at your house you're not using. If you're not using subscriptions, we need to get rid of them.
Yeah.
And I would say the other thing is if you're looking at, you may be considering investing in some home improvements, things that may lower your cooling costs, that might improve the value of your home. Now's a good time to start thinking about those and start putting a plan together for those as well.
Yeah.
And when it comes to planning, Jen, I developed the core retirement design to help people put together that design and that plan for their retirement. Give us a call, 863-285-3815 to schedule your core retirement analysis, where we'll analyze where you are and make sure that you're on the path to the retirement you dreamed of. Again, that number is 863-285-3815.
Talking today with Philip Statler. He is president and CEO of Statler Financial Services in Sebring. I am Jen Rezac, alongside some good ideas there, Philip, so far about some things to consider as it relates to spring cleaning your finances. And gosh, when you talk about those things like the subscriptions and some of those things, the number of free trials I have signed up for, and then you forget about, especially today in today's world, Philip, my kids have all the teams they're on. There's all these different apps to sign up to follow their scores and stuff. I mean, there's just so many areas that you don't even think about. So that's a really good reminder, I think, to just keep an eye on that stuff. A lot of us, you think about your household spring cleaning to-do list, it might feel about a mile long. Today, we're talking about spring cleaning for your finances. And, you referenced this earlier, Philip. A lot of times at the start of the year, we do spend time talking about setting financial goals for the year, making those financial resolutions. It just feels natural to do that at that time of year, at the start of the year. If we were people who did that, how can we maybe check in on some of our progress? Could this be a good time for a progress report on some of our financial goals?
It's absolutely a great time to take time and revisit your goals and see if we're on track. I mean, whether that's, how's your 401k doing? How's your investment accounts doing? Whether you are getting ready to retire or you've already retired, it's a good time to take a look at those to make sure that we're on track to continue to get to that end goal, whatever it may be. Now, it does help, Jen, if you have an accountability partner, a husband and wife, it makes it kind of easy because, they can keep each other accountable. But if you're single, find somebody that can help keep you accountable for measuring that progress and keeping up with it on a regular basis, because tracking your progress is the key.
Yeah.
Because it's easy to get busy and not look at that stuff. And so that's something you want to look at. The other thing that is a good time to take a look at, Jen, is your beneficiaries. Making sure that the beneficiaries on all your accounts, your annuities, your life insurance, your retirement accounts, any account that's a payable on death account, make sure that those beneficiaries are still what you want and how you want them to be left. It's a great time to take a minute and do that.
Yeah, that's a good reminder. And here's the last one that I want to make sure I ask you about, because I know you are very aware, Philip. The other thing that happens during spring cleaning season would be tax season, which you are very aware of.
You had to remind me, didn't you?
Yeah, I had to go there. So, a lot of times we're thinking about getting our finances organized and getting our account information in order while we're getting all those financial documents organized. But let's just talk a little bit about that. Just, not only getting ourselves organized for this year's tax season, but we want to be thinking beyond that as well, right?
That's right. And that's where having that plan helps us get to where we need to be. And that's why when I developed my core retirement design, I really looked at the 3 key areas that always seem to hit home when I was talking to a client or a prospect or anybody, that these three items kept hitting on the radar.
Mm-hmm.
One of them is risk. Making sure that the amount of risk we have truly matches up with where we should be based on our current circumstances. The second area is taxes. Taxes is not a plan today for the rest of this year. It is a plan that we need to make for the next 5, maybe even 10 years to make sure that we're paying the least amount of taxes possible when it comes to our retirement.
Mm-hmm.
And then the last thing is, and we talked about this morning already, I think, is making sure that we are, have an income plan in place, have some kind of plan that will get us not just into retirement, but get it through retirement, because the planning is different.
Yeah.
If you're not retired yet, you have a different plan than the person, the you that retires will have a different plan, or at least should have a different plan than what you have right now trying to get ready for retirement.
Yeah.
And that's what I focus on, is that plan to get you ready for retirement.
Yeah. And that is such a good point when you talk about having that written plan. Getting your financial house in order, creating a plan is probably a financial goal for a lot of you, because only 35% of Americans have a thought out and documented financial plan. That means a lot of us don't. And the reality is, people without a plan, Philip, they do tend to feel less confident about their future. That's just something we don't want to overlook.
Yeah, you're right, Jenna. And I know a lot of you out there are worried that you haven't saved enough, or that you won't even be able to retire. I know that most of you don't have a written financial plan based on those statistics, right?
Right.
And so one of the things we want to help you do is put those things together, because a financial plan can help you feel less stressed out about the whole financial thing when it comes to retirement. So you don't have to be one of those folks worried about your money. Will it last? Will it not last? Can I afford to retire? Can I not afford to retire? Look, that's why I developed the Core Retirement Design, to help you design that retirement that you've always dreamed of. Now listen, it's a great opportunity. It's a 30-minute phone consultation with me personally to walk through where you are and to see if you're on the right path. If you are, great. I'll tell you, hey, you're doing a great job. Keep doing what you're doing. If you're not, I'm going to give you some input. Hey, look, here's some things you need to be doing. Here's some things that may help you. Hey, we want to make sure that folks in our listening audience are ready for retirement. Give us a call at 863-285-3815 to schedule your core retirement analysis.
That number again, 863-285-3815. This is the Statler Financial Radio Show. More insights from Philip are coming up next. Stay with us.
Turn your plans of yesterday into yes today. Don't wait another day for a routine checkup of your retirement plans. Call Statler Financial Services, 863-285-3815. That's 863-285-3815.
Do you actually read your financial statements, or do they get tossed in a drawer and forgotten about? You could be making an expensive mistake by not taking the time to look at them. If you're paying high fees in your retirement portfolio, it could be costing you tens of thousands of dollars or more over your lifetime. Imagine the difference an extra $100,000 could make in your retirement. Statler Financial Services can help you uncover any hidden fees in your retirement accounts. Call today to schedule a time to talk about your situation. 863-285-3815. That's 863-285-3815. When you're close to retirement, every dollar matters. Would you like to know where your money is going? Find out what kind of fees you're really paying. Statler Financial Services can help. 863-285-3815. 863-285-3815. Advisory services offered through Statler Financial Services, Inc., a registered investment advisory firm in the state of Florida.
Time to retire right. This is the Statler Financial Radio Show.
Thanks for joining us today on the Statler Financial Radio Show with Philip Statler. He is president and CEO of Statler Financial Services in Sebring. Now, the IRS tax code is full of thousands of sections. They all have their own definitions and rules and fees. And no matter what you know about what's in there, taxpayers are legally bound to follow all of them. And this is where we can get ourselves into a little bit of trouble because it can be awfully confusing, Philip. We all know we need to file our taxes every year, even though it can be overwhelming and complicated. But you say there's a more proactive approach that pre-retirees should take. Talk a little bit about the difference between getting our taxes prepared and tax planning.
Well, we all have to get them prepared,
Yes.
right? I mean, the government wants you to file your return by April 15th.
That's
Pay your
adulting
taxes if you
101,
owe
right?
That's right. Pay your taxes if you owe anything because they want their money. And so that's history, right? I mean, if we're filing our 2023 taxes, we're going to file them in 2024. Guess what? There's not much you can do
Right.
to reduce your taxes once the year is gone. And so, you need to be proactive when it comes to taxes. And that means looking at ways to minimize your required minimum distribution. It means, what else can I do? Can I use some charitable giving to help offset things? There's so many things we can do, but it doesn't help to know all these things if you don't have a plan in place to use the tools that are available.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's talk a little bit about when we should start thinking about this, thinking about tax planning, learning about some of those tools so we can have that benefit for our finances down the road in the future.
It's never too early
Yeah.
to start planning for taxes, right? And so what a lot of folks don't understand about taxes is they don't go away. People, I get this call all the time. Hey, look, I'm retiring. I'm not going to be working anymore. So I don't have to worry about taxes, right? The answer is wrong.
Right.
You do still have to worry about taxes. And the time to plan for your retirement and taxes is about the time you get ready to retire.
Yeah.
We need to make that plan now so that we can reduce your taxes, because it's not I can do it all this year or I can do it all next year. It takes a plan, and sometimes it takes 4, 6, 8 years to accomplish the plan to get folks to the point that they can pay the least amount of taxes possible in the foreseeable future in retirement. And so it's not I'm going to do that next year and it's all done. It's a planning process, Jen, and it takes time to accomplish it.
Yeah. And I think that is, it's easy to put these things off, Philip, for a couple of reasons. First of all, you kind of trick yourself into thinking that you have more time to take care of these types of things. And also it can just be a little bit overwhelming. It's not a lot of fun to think about, but the reality is when it comes to what's going on with our tax code, we know that there are already some changes that are coming because the 2017 Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, it changed tax rates, it dropped tax rates for a lot of people, but it expires here before too long. So talk a little bit about just that window of opportunity that's starting to slide shut because we are coming up on the sunset of that current tax policy.
We are, Jen, and folks don't really realize what that means. They think and believe that means their tax rates are going to go up, and they're absolutely right. That is going to happen. What they don't realize is the brackets are going to go down, which means less of your money is going to be taxed at that 10% bracket, or less of that money is going to be taxed at the 15% bracket than is currently taxed at the 10 or 12 now. And so in this law sunsets the end of 2025. So in 2026, you're going to wake up to a new tax law, a new tax code back to what it was prior to the Trump change. And so we need to take advantage of that while we can and see if it makes sense to start shifting some dollars from taxable to tax-free. And it takes planning, it takes discipline to make it happen, but you need to know what your options are, how they work, and what the end result's going to be. And that's really, again, part of our core retirement design, where we help people design the retirement they always dreamed of. Taxes is a big part of that. We look at charitable giving. We looked at Roth conversions. We look at all those different things that are important to reduce taxes in our core retirement design. If taxes are a big deal for you, give us a call at 863-285-3815. That's 863-285-3815. And let's see what opportunities you have for a tax-free retirement down the road.
That number again, 863-285-3815. I think that sounds pretty good, Philip, when you talk about this idea of a tax-free retirement, finding ways to be more tax efficient in retirement. And of course, as I said, we know that these changes are already baked in as far as the expiration of our current tax policy, but also there could be other proposals that pop up between now and then as well. When you have a possible change in the makeup of Congress, or you have some sort of proposal put out there, we have a lot of government spending. Our national debt is really big, and a lot of people think that tax increases are going to be one way to deal with that. So just talk again about the fact that there are changes in tax policy. It's important to take advantage of current tax planning opportunities now, but also we can't prevent some of these changes from happening, but having a plan in place can help us navigate through some of those changes a little bit smoother, wouldn't you say?
Well, yeah, and we can plan ahead for a worst case scenario as well. I mean, if you think about it, Jen, you made some good points, valid points. The one that you didn't mention is interest rates have gone up substantially.
Oh, yeah.
And as the government has this huge debt looming over his head, they have to pay interest just like you and I have to pay interest when we borrow money. And so if you think about what the interest payments have done since COVID and the increase in interest rates, the interest rates have more than quadrupled, which means our national debt payment has gone up substantially as well. How are they going to deal with that? The only way, because they seem to not be able to cut spending, is they're going to have to raise taxes in order just to cover the increase in interest expense that we're going to have as a country. And so if you think about that, we can see down the road, taxes are going to have to go up exponentially. And they always say, well, yeah, it's only going to affect those people that make over $400,000. Folks, I tell you, the math does not work to tax people that make over $400,000. It just doesn't work. The tax rates are going to have to affect those of us rank and file that are middle income people that are making $60,000, $70,000 a year. It's going to come down to our level in some way, shape, or form. We just don't know what that looks like or when that's going to happen. But I'll tell you this, you have to be prepared for it, Jen.
Yeah, you absolutely do have to think about that. And I feel like that happens a lot, Philip, when you talk about people who might make assumptions about who some of these changes will or won't impact. And it's easy to say, oh, that will only impact, the super wealthy. That won't impact me. But there's such a slippery slope here. Here's another way where we might potentially be impacted. The age when somebody has to start taking their required minimum distributions, their RMDs, that's 73 years old. Talk about the impact that RMDs can have on our taxes and certainly those federal income taxes.
Yeah, RMDs, that stands for required minimum distribution. So the IRS says, Congress says in the tax code that when you hit a certain age, you must start taking money out of your IRAs, your 401ks, into your retirement plans. It's not an option. You have to take it out whether you want to or not. And I run into this all the time, Jen. I have clients that I don't need the money. I don't want to take the money out. Doesn't matter. So there are some things that folks can do because it does have a big impact, right? If you have to start taking your required minimum distribution, I mean, now that's at age 73. It impacts how much of your Social Security is taxable, how much of your other income ends up being taxable. It's a big deal. And it starts to impact. The bigger your IRA, the more impact it has. If you think about folks that are retiring and walking out with $250,000 or $500,000 in all their retirement accounts, then their RMD can be a substantial amount of money that is going to impact their tax situation. And so it's one of those things that we have to have a plan in place of how are we going to deal with all the tax implications that are going to be out there. That's just a fact that we're going to have to deal with, Jen.
Yeah. So again, this is why we talk about planning. We talk about being strategic here, certainly with things like our required minimum distributions. You need to be aware of the impacts on those withdrawals from your retirement accounts, the impact on your taxes. This is why it's important that we talk to somebody like you, Philip, who guides people through retirement each and every day to help us develop a strategy for taking money from those retirement accounts, for being tax efficient with the way we do that, and creating a strategy for our income so we don't outlive it in retirement. All of that is part of the planning process that you guide people through.
Absolutely is, Jen. And, I've got over 40 years of tax experience behind me to help in that planning process. But all that put together, we developed our core retirement design to help people design that retirement they dreamed of. And we look at 3 important areas of retirement. How much risk are you taking on in retirement? A lot of people have way too much risk than they need, and there's other folks that don't have enough risk in their portfolios. Both are extremely important to know. Taxes are important. How can we reduce our taxes in retirement? And then thirdly, income. What is our income plan? How are we going to take our income? Where is it going to come from? And what's the tax implications when we do? All that is wound up in our core retirement design. Give us a call today at 863-285-3815. That's 863-285-3815. Let's you and I have a 30-minute conversation to make sure you're on the right track to the retirement you always dreamed of. That number one more time, 863-285-3815.
This is the Statler Financial Radio Show with Philip Statler. More insights from Philip are coming up next. Stay with us.
Turn your plans of yesterday into yes today. Don't wait another day for a routine checkup of your retirement plans. Call Statler Financial Services, 863-285-3815. That's 863-285-3815.
It's nice when you get everything on your list in one place, isn't it? Philip Statler at Statler Financial Services agrees. That's why he offers comprehensive retirement planning all under one roof. You shouldn't have to go one place for information about tax planning, another for estate planning, and another for retirement income planning. That's why Statler Financial Services was started. Philip wanted to build a company that could help families with all aspects of their retirement. Statler Financial is more than just convenient, they're knowledgeable and experienced. To set up a meeting with Philip Statler and his team to talk about your retirement plan, all of it, call 863-285-3815. That's 863-285-3815. Statler Financial Services, one stop for a wealth of retirement solutions. 863-285-3815. Advisory services offered through Statler Financial Services, Inc., a registered investment advisory firm in the state of Florida.
I want to help you understand some things. Number one, timing of your RMD, because they could potentially push you into a higher tax bracket. Imagine how fast your savings could shrink if you rack up penalties along with taking regular withdrawals and paying taxes.
Welcome back to the Statler Financial Radio Show with Philip Statler and co-host Jen Rezac.
Thanks for joining us today on the Statler Financial Radio Show with Philip Statler. He is president and CEO of Statler Financial Services in Sebring, and I am Jen Rezac alongside. The IRS Comprehensive Taxpayer Attitude Survey found that about half of taxpayers use paid tax professionals. So there are a lot of tax preparers out there across our country, but who should we turn to when it comes to tax planning in retirement? You know, Philip, I know we talked about this earlier. There's a difference between tax preparation and tax planning, and who we're talking to, getting that financial guidance from matters here as well. Talk about the different types of financial professionals and the benefits of working with a retirement planner.
Well, Jen, it's a different philosophy when we start looking at retirement, because people start early, right? They start putting the 401ks. A lot of companies have 401ks or simple IRAs. So these young guys, they start investing early, which is good, which is very good. It helps them start to build up, but the younger you are, the more risk you can take because you got time on your side. You're still working. And that works good, right? While you're working, you're building, and then you get to your 50s and 55 and 60. Well, now retirement's on the horizon. We don't want to have another 2008 or another 2000 happen when we're planning to retire the next 2 or 3 years. That would not be good. And so what happens is that we're in this growth mindset. We want to grow our portfolio. Nothing wrong with that. However, when we get to the point of time that we're going to retire and we're not going to be working anymore, then risk becomes something that we have to have under control.
Mm-hmm.
We can't be sitting out there like we were 25, 30 years old. We've got to back off. And it's just a different relationship. It's a different standard that we need to use when we head into retirement. Keeping what we have is more important than making that 8, 9, 10% return, because 8, 9, 10% return may mean that we're down 30% 1 year too. That's what we can't afford. And so it's just working with a retirement planner. They understand the change of nature when we go from being a working person working to a retired person. It's a big difference in the way we handle our finances. And so that's what we look at when we start looking at retirement planning. What do we expect? What are people going to do for their retirement? And that's what we put together is this whole worksheet of where's our money going to come from in retirement, Jen? That's what's important.
Yeah. It's so common to be working with different people, for our brokerage accounts or on our taxes and that type of thing. It's very common to have all that different type of guidance in all these different areas during our working years. But it's just important to recognize the change that happens when we get into retirement, because everything changes with where our income's coming from. Our whole financial picture really does evolve. If we are thinking about retiring in the next few years, what are some things we should consider doing right now to help make that transition as smooth as possible?
Well, a couple of things. One is you need to have a plan in place. If you're 3 to 5 years out from retirement, you should have a written retirement income plan in place. So you know, when are you going to start drawing Social Security? Where's your income going to come from? So that's number one. You need to have a plan in place. Number two, you need to know how much risk you currently have in your investments so that you can make the changes that need to be made now before you retire so that you're on the right track when it comes to the whole risk thing. And then maybe while you're working, you don't have time to make changes, or it doesn't make sense to make changes from a tax perspective, but you need to have that plan in place so that when you do retire, you know what the next steps are to get you in the lowest tax brackets possible for the rest of your retirement life, hopefully even being able to get you to the point you pay zero taxes in retirement. Not always possible, but something you need to look at.
Yeah, and I'm sure I've asked you this question before, but as it relates to planning for retirement and, our topic right now is tax planning, is it ever too late to get started on doing these things as we're getting close to retirement?
It's not too late. It may make it a little bit more difficult, but it's never too late. It's always better to have a plan than not have a plan. Even if you've been retired for 5 years and you say, look, Philip, I don't have a plan. It's not too late. We can sit down and make sure that you've got a plan in place to get you from where you are for the rest of your retirement life. That's what our core retirement design does. But give us a call and let's start that process. Let's analyze where you are now and make sure that you're on that path to the retirement you dreamed of. Give us a call at 863-285-3815. That's 863-285-3815. Let's walk through your core retirement analysis. That number again, 863-285-3815.
Talking today with Philip Statler. He is president and CEO of Statler Financial Services in Sebring. That number again, 863-285-3815. Talking today a little bit about this whole tax planning piece. It's so important that we don't overlook preparing for taxes and the impact that taxes can have on our retirement. Let's just talk a little bit about what goes into creating a tax-efficient strategy for retirement. This is not one of these areas, Philip, where we all know that we need to pay our taxes, but nobody wants to be overpaying in taxes. We want to be efficient here.
That's right. We do want to be efficient. And sometimes efficiency means that we're paying some tax today to keep from paying a lot more tax down the road. And so when we talk about some of these different options, folks need to understand that it may not be a direct tax savings today, but the idea is we want to reduce taxes for you and your family for the rest of your retirement life. That's our goal. And so, when we look at some different options, one is Roth conversions, right? We're going to convert our IRA to a Roth IRA because a Roth IRA grows tax-free. And so tax-free is much better than taxable in my book. However, when you do that, you have to pay tax, right? There's no free lunch here, folks. When you make that conversion, you're going to have to pay some tax. And sometimes that creates enough income that you have to pay more tax on your Social Security. You may even have to pay a higher Medicare premium for a year or two to get through the process. So you need to understand that there's always a trade-off. But if we're looking long-term, which everybody should be looking long-term when it comes to investments and taxes, there are ways that you can cut your taxes long-term. It may mean we have to pay a little bit now in order to save later. But that's the whole process that we work through to determine what that plan looks like for saving taxes in retirement, Jen.
Talk about creating a plan that addresses taxes in the future when we don't know what tax policy will be in place 20 or 30 years from now. I mean, that's the real challenge. It's one thing for us to know what's going on with our current tax policy, but how can we create a plan that's going to help us address this that far down the road?
Well, you're right. And it's hard to understand the current tax policy too, right? So that can be an issue too.
Yeah.
But it is. So we know what's going to happen in the next 3 years. We don't know what's going to happen beyond that. Yeah. We can make some assumptions, and that's really all we can really do, right? We can make some assumptions based on the current atmosphere of what's happening right now in the whole world we're living in. And so we know based on just pure economics that, when interest rates go up, if we're borrowing money, our payments are going to go up. And so we know that ultimately that taxes are going to have to go up. We don't see a way around that going forward. And I think most people understand that. We may not know the exact outcome of what that's going to look like or who's going to have to pay the tax, but we can agree that from today, taxes have to go up. And so that's the premise we have to work on, that we need to move as much now and pay tax today versus higher taxes later. And so that's kind of the premise we have to work on. I know even myself, right? I use a Roth, but I'm not using tax deferred. I'm not deferring anything right now, from a retirement standpoint. Because to me, it's better to pay the tax today and have tax-free income down the road. And so that's those are the things we look at, though, when we start looking at how can we save money down the road when it comes to taxes. And we don't know. You're right. We don't know what the future holds.
Right.
But we know the direction our country's going, that you can't really see a way that taxes won't go up. And so that becomes the issue. The question is, for older folks, is it going to happen, the next 10 years? Or is it going to happen in the next 20 years or 30 years? That's the question. And we don't know. But, it's going to, if it doesn't affect you, it's going to affect your family. And so we look at the whole family unit in terms of how our taxes are being.
Yeah, it's just one of these areas that we need to make sure that we're not overlooking. Talk to us a little bit about your process, Philip, that you walk people through when they want to start getting serious about preparing for retirement and putting in those plans that help them ensure that they won't outlive what they've saved.
Absolutely, Jen. We have and developed our core retirement design. And that core retirement design focuses on 3 areas when it comes to retirement planning. One is risk. How much risk do you have? Is it the right amount of risk for where you are in your life cycle right now? Taxes. What can we do to reduce your taxes for you, your wife, your family going forward? What can we do today to put you in a better position for taxes down the road? And then lastly, income. Where's your income going to come from? Do you know where your income's going to come from when you retire? Which bucket? A lot of people have what I call a junk drawer. They have a lot of different accounts, but they don't have a plan on where their income's going to come from. That's what the core retirement design does. It designs that income plan so that you know where your money's going to come from, when it's coming from there, and how long it's going to last. Folks, core retirement design will help you design that retirement you always dreamed of. Give us a call at 863-285-3815. Call at 863-285-3815 and get started on your core retirement design.
That number again, 863-285-3815. This is the Statler Financial Radio Show with Philip Statler. More insights from Philip are coming up next. Stay with us.
Do you have a retirement plan but would like a second opinion? Call Philip Statler today, 863-285-3815. Statler Financial Services, 863-285-3815. Do you actually read your financial statements, or do they get tossed in a drawer and forgotten about? You could be making an expensive mistake by not taking the time to look at them. If you're paying high fees in your retirement portfolio, it could be costing you tens of thousands of dollars or more over your lifetime. Imagine the difference an extra $100,000 could make in your retirement. Statler Financial Services can help you uncover any hidden fees in your retirement accounts. Call today to schedule a time to talk about your situation. 863-285-3815. That's 863-285-3815. When you're close to retirement, every dollar matters. Would you like to know where your money is going? Find out what kind of fees you're really paying. Statler Financial Services can help. 863-285-3815. 863-285-3815. Advisory services offered through Statler Financial Services, Inc., a registered investment advisory firm in the state of Florida.
Thanks for joining us today on the Statler Financial Radio Show. I am Jen Rezac, happy to be here alongside Philip Statler. He is president and CEO of Statler Financial Services, and there are so many big decisions that you have to weigh as you head into retirement. So what we like to do here on the show, take one of those big decisions, really dive into the pros and cons. We call this retirement yay or nay, and I think we'll have some fun with this week's topic, Philip. It is leaving an inheritance or not. To leave or not to leave an inheritance.
There you
right?
go.
Yeah. So
depends on if you're giving or getting. Probably.
I know. I think so too. So here's some research that I did. I thought this was kind of interesting. Do you know who Daniel Craig is, the actor? Please say yes. He played James Bond.
Okay, yes. Okay, fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
You
got to tell me what they did.
I know. Quite distasteful. You have to have his accent. Think about his lovely Scottish accent when you think. Quite distasteful is how he describes the idea of leaving his children an inheritance. There's a bunch of celebrities who've come out and publicly said they are not going to do this. They're going to. They're not going to leave money to their kids. They're going to give it to charity. Daniel Craig's quote is, "Isn't there an old adage that if you die a rich person, you failed?" And he says he plans to get rid of it or give it away. Gene Simmons of Kiss, he's not going to leave his kids penniless, but he doesn't want them to become rich off of his money. And Warren Buffett says relatively little will go to his 3 kids. He's going to leave $2.1 billion in stock to their philanthropic organizations, but the bulk of his fortune will go to the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. So the Gateses are going to do all right off of Warren Buffett.
Yes, sir. Yeah, man, I tell you. So I find one thing a little interesting there, right?
Sure.
So, especially Warren Buffett's, right? He's going to leave $2.1 billion in stock to each of their philanthropic
so the kids,
right?
I mean, they're all doing all right.
They're going to run it, right? And I'm sure they'll get paid for running their own organization. So it's not like they're going to starve to death, right? It's it's one of those things. But you got different people have different opinions on what they want to do what they want to leave to their kids or their grandkids, right? So it's obviously a personal choice as to what they do, but it is interesting to see wealthy people and their take on leaving inheritance to their kids.
Yeah. One of my favorite ones, real quickly, before we move on into the pros and cons, Gordon Ramsay, the chef. He does not let his kids ride in first class when they travel. They have to sit and coach because he's like, they haven't worked hard enough to earn this. They're not. And I think it's Shaq who reminds his kids, we're not rich. I'm rich. Not you guys. So those are pretty good. Just keep everybody grounded. Just keeping it real. So. But you're right. There's no wrong answers here. This is, a matter of personal preference and personal beliefs, but just kind of interesting to see some of these trends with some of these ultra wealthy people and celebrities and what they're planning to do with their money. Okay, so let's get into the yays and nays of leaving an inheritance. So if you do want to leave an inheritance to your heirs, let's talk about some of the things that you ought to be thinking about. Philip, what are some of the boxes that we want to check if we're on the yay side of this?
There's quite a few that I think people need to really and truly consider before they start giving away, all their money.
And one thing we should say really quickly also, you are not an estate planning attorney. And this is not legal advice. We're not doing that right now. I just want to
That's right.
be following the rules and whatnot. Okay. Now go.
Yeah. Now I can go, huh?
Now you
okay. So first thing is you need to think about yourself. You need to think about your income needs. Mm-hmm. What am I going to need in income for the rest of my life? And folks, listen, if you're 65, very well could be a long life ahead for you. And so let's don't get short-sighted and start giving away too much too soon, not knowing, that the end could be 20 years down the road still. And so that's one thing I think we need to make sure that we ascertain what that looks like before we start making gifts to our kids and grandkids. Second is we need to think about taxes and inflation. Mm-hmm. Both of those things are going to go up. Inflation may be up and down. Taxes, I don't see any way that they are not going to continue to rise over the next 20 years.
Yep.
Given interest rates going up, given our debt, I mean, there's just so much headwind there that I don't see anything that's going to stop that. You need to look at healthcare costs for yourself, because that, as a retired individual, will end up taking a huge chunk of your income. Mm-hmm. And so you want to make sure that you're going to have enough there to not just cover your healthcare, but what about if we have an unexpected illness? Not just for you, but I know a lot of times, hey, look, if one of your children has something, unexpected illness, well, you're going to want to help that person. So we don't want to just give up too soon on our own account. Mm-hmm. Look at the tax implications that we're leaving behind. And then I think that the other thing we need to make sure we're looking at is, what about a legacy? Mm-hmm. Who do you want to leave it to? What is your plan for that legacy? Right? Are we just going to give away the quote, the exclusion? Are we buying life insurance? Are we putting money into a trust? What are we doing? What's the plan? Mm-hmm. Let's don't just, willy-nilly and say, okay, I'm going to leave all my money to my kids and do without, which I see that, and that's not a good thing, right? We want to take care of ourselves, and if there's anything left, the kids get it. But let's don't go through retirement without, because we want to make sure the kids get it. And when it comes to legacy planning, there's several different avenues out there, right? Gifting on an annual basis, the trust, like I said, to avoid probate, retirement accounts, with Secure Act, it changed some stuff. Yep. And so, there may be some better ways than just leaving your IRA to somebody by using some life insurance to make sure that they get tax-free money, because the retirement account, they're going to have to take it out in 10 years. Mm-hmm. And And let's face it, when you die, they're probably going to be in their higher tax, higher years of earnings. So they're going to be in a higher tax bracket than you are.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, couple good things to keep in mind there. A lot that we want to be mindful of, a lot that we need to be considering here. And Philip, let's just talk real quickly before we move on to the other side here, before we move on to the nays and that side of the debate here. Talk a little bit about your process for helping people discuss all of these things, not only what's going on with our ideas for inheritance goals, but some of those other areas of preparing for retirement as well.
Well, I think a lot of this lends itself to the income planning process we go through because that's the key, right? Because then you can see where your income is going to be. How much am I going to have left at age 100? Mm-hmm. What happens if I do some gifting now? We can throw that into the mix and say, okay, look, I'm going to give, $50,000 away to all my grandkids. And so what does that look like? How much is that going to deplete your assets? And so that's all part of our core retirement design. Give us a call, 863-285-3815 to schedule that 30-minute no obligation phone consultation. 863-285-3815.
So, Philip, as we said earlier, and it's good to know all the different options here, there are no wrong answers here, right? Whether or not you plan to leave an inheritance to your loved ones, that is entirely up to you. No wrong answers. But whatever your wishes are, having a plan in place is important because those things will not happen without proper documentation, proper plans in place. So it's really important that we have these conversations, Philip. Just walk us through some of the things that we need to think about as we're approaching retirement, especially in regards to our legacy plan and other areas of preparing for retirement.
Well, if we want to do legacy planning, there's a lot of different areas that we can focus on, different ways of funding it, right? And so that's where I think you need to work with somebody that has all those different options available. What if, I want to support charities and through a donor advised fund? How can I do that? We can help you with that. What if I want to leave, a big chunk of money to my kids? How can I do that? And we can help you devise that plan. That's all part of the process of working with somebody that has the ability to really, all the tools that are out there, have access to them. Look, if you're not sure whether you're a yay or a nay when it comes to leaving inheritance, you don't have to decide now, but you need to decide soon. Give us a call at 863-285-3815. Let us help walk you through that process to help you decide which side of the coin you're on there. That number is 863-285-3815. Give us a call today. Let us help you solve the yay or nay issue when it comes to inheritance. 863-285-3815.
Thanks for joining us today. This has been the Statler Financial Radio Show with Philip Statler. That's all the time we have for this week. Be sure to tune in again next week for more insights from Philip, and we'll talk to you then.
Information provided during the Statler Financial Radio Show is for illustrative purposes only and does not constitute investment, tax, or legal advice. Information has been obtained from sources that are deemed to be reliable, but their accuracy and completeness cannot be guaranteed. Always consult with a qualified investment, legal, or tax professional before taking any action. Annuity guarantees are based solely on the financial strength and claims-paying ability of the issuing company. Individuals should thoroughly review the contract for specific details of the product features and costs. Income payments and withdrawals from deferred annuities are generally taxable as ordinary income in the year they are taken. All investing involves risk, including the potential loss of principal. No strategy is guaranteed to be successful.
This radio show is a paid placement.